Weapons and equipment. The Napoleonic cavalryman was a fusion of man, beast, and steel, a weapon in motion. Every piece of his gear, from the crest on his helmet to the nails in his horse's shoes, was chosen to serve in the chaos of battle. These were more than just riders. They were moving arsenals, carrying on their horse nearly everything they needed for both survival and combat. Unlike infantry, who could rely on baggage trains or supply wagons, a trooper often had to live out of his saddle. Strapped to the horse were not only his saber, pistols, or carbine, but also a bedroll, cloak, and sometimes even rations for days of marching. His mount was his lifeline, carrying food, forage, ammunition, and spare gear, while also serving as the very weapon of shock in battle. Every piece of his equipment, from the curve of a hussar's light saber to the gleaming cuirass of a heavy cavalryman, was chosen to balance speed, striking power, and protection. The cavalryman's kit had to make him self-sufficient on campaign and deadly in the charge. Much like a modern-day climber, every pound of weight was carefully considered. Each piece of kit served one of two purposes: keeping him alive or making him deadly to the enemy. The following were his most important tools. The saber. The true signature weapon of Napoleon's cavalry was the saber. Its curved blade was designed for slashing attacks at speed, delivering deep, sweeping cuts from horseback. Heavy cavalry, like the cuirassiers, carried long, straight-bladed sabers for thrusting into enemy ranks. But light cavalry preferred lighter, more curved versions that allowed for faster cuts in the whirl of a melee. A skilled cavalryman could draw, slash, and return his saber in a single fluid motion. In battle, the glitter of hundreds of blades catching the sunlight as they came down in unison was as much of a weapon of terror as the steel itself. The lance. The Polish lancers made the lance a feared sight on European battlefields once more. These lances were much like the weapons medieval knights used to joust. At over 9 feet long, it could strike an opponent before he was close enough to swing a sword. In the first moments of a charge, the lancers could sweep through the infantry and cavalry alike, breaking formations and sowing panic. The fluttering pennons near the spearhead weren't just decoration. They distracted the enemy horses and helped identify the regiment. The pistol and carbine. Most cavalry carried pistol and saddle holsters, heavy single-shot weapons used in the instant before the impact or swirling of chaos in a melee. Dragoons and some light cavalry carried carbines, shorter than the infantry muskets but accurate enough to deliver a volley before charging or when skirmishing on foot. Though gunfire from horseback was never as decisive as cold steel, it could soften an enemy line or scatter pickets before a charge. Armor. For the heavy cavalry, the cuirass was both a badge and protection, a breastplate and backplate of steel designed to turn a saber cut and sometimes even deflect a musket ball. Helmets were made of brass or steel, often with flowing horse-shield crests that gave the rider extra height and presence. These armored cavalrymen were the modern evolution of medieval knights. Light cavalry dispensed with the heavy armor to preserve speed, relying instead on agility and horsemanship for survival. The saddle and horse gear. A cavalryman's saddle was more than just a seat. It was a combat platform. Designed to keep the rider secure during sudden turns, leaps, and collisions, it distributed weight evenly across the horse's back. Stirrups allowed the rider to stand and strike downward with maximum force. Every strap, buckle, and pouch had its place. Saddlebags for rations, holsters for pistols, a carbine sling, and sometimes a rolled greatcoat strapped across the pommel. The jingle of his gear was the constant music of a cavalry camp. For all cavalrymen, however, the horse was their true weapon. No matter how fine the saber or how bright the cuirass, a cavalryman was nothing without his horse. Horses were chosen for their speed, stamina, and temperament. Heavy cavalry mounts were tall and muscular, capable of carrying a man in full armor into the press of a melee, while light cavalry favored faster, more agile breeds for scouting and pursuit. In battle, horse and rider became one. A well-trained mount could respond to knee pressure and weight shifts alone, leaving the rider's hands free for weapons. Many cavalrymen formed deep bonds with their horses, bonds that could mean life or death in the chaos of combat. Due to their large size and fragile physique, horses were often lost to gunfire or injury during combat. A cavalryman was considered extremely lucky to be able to keep his same horse throughout his years of service. There are many romantic stories told by cavalrymen of their steeds protecting them in life or death situations. Individually, each piece of a cavalryman's equipment was impressive. Together, they were devastating, a mounted platform of speed, steel, and human skill. Napoleon's genius lay in knowing exactly how to unleash this combination for maximum effect, so that when his cavalry struck, they did so with all the force and precision of a master's blade.